honesty. One God, one aim, one Trinity. I am a madman. I am a madman.
Richard Dick Loomis.
I am
Codename,
a madman.
The Rain Man.
Was born in the country. I don't deal with rumpets. I am a contest.
Richard Dick Loomis was born August 16, 1950 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Richard aka Dick is the son of Hector Kwon's best friend inventor Martin Loomis and socialite feminist Ashley Erin Katz. Richard grew up in Broward County during his youth. While he was raised by both parents, Dick spent most of his time with his mom, while Martin was busy with the development of the Israeli Mossad and their quest to eliminate all Nazi war criminals that escaped the Nuremberg trials with the use of Nazi hunters. After the age of 3, Dick's mom started having an affair with war industrialist Barney Walker, who was also in a self-imposed competition with Martin Loomis to have control and administrative control and oversight over the Mossad's Nazi hunting operations in the United States government and media. Barney having an affair with Stephanie and spending time with Dick was all a part of Barney's plan to brainwash Ashley and Richard against Martin. Barney took advantage of Martin focusing on the development of the Israeli Mossad in order to destroy Martin's family life, swap destinies with Martin without his consent by way of switch destiny witchcraft, and dominate his soul by doing domination spells on Martin's semen that was stolen from Martin by his own wife Ashley Erin Katz, and MK Ultra psychological operations which involved brainwashing his loved ones and the Jewish community against Martin. Dick became resentful of Martin since Martin was always busy overseas, focusing on taking out Nazi war criminals. Although Martin took Dick with him during operations as a form of father-son bonding, Dick still grew resentment for his father because of Barney's witchcraft casting illusion spells on Dick's perception of his own father, and Martin not spoiling Dick with lavish gifts like Barney does. Unlike Martin, who likes to build inventions to help people and isn't a racist, Richard was always fascinated with building technology to destroy lives like AI missile defense systems, transhumanism, human cloning, mobile remote-controlled nuclear weapons, microchip implants and asbestos cigarettes to give to the black community. Secretly, Ashley Erin Katz and Barney are cousins who conspired against Martin for his life insurance policy and to inherit steal Martin's war bonds and control gaslighting industries from within. Martin's stress from his marriage as well as Dick being brainwashed against him, his own family and the entire Jewish community turning against him for Barney because of Martin being anti-Zionist, and calling out all the Judenrats responsible for selling out the reputation of Jewish people for positions of power over humanity during Operation Paperclip, and Malcolm X's death led to Martin dying of a nasty heart attack in 1965 when Dick was 14 years old. Barney's spellwork caused Martin's heart to explode in his chest. No one had a funeral for Martin besides Dick's godfather Hector Kwon. All of Martin's friends and family were threatened with blackmail by Barney to not hold a proper funeral for Martin, or attend the funeral services Hector paid for out of his own pocket. Barney married Ashley Erin Katz a day after Martin's death, and even celebrated his death with Dick and Raphael Diaz by partying on Martin's grave during a graveyard humiliation ritual done by Barney and Raphael. This was the first night Dick ever had alcohol. Dick was so blackout drunk that night, Dick was molested and gang raped by both Barney and Raphael on top of Martin's grave on camera. However, Raphael put a memory wipe spell on Dick to forget the experience. The goal was to fluid bind with Dick and initiate Dick into Barney and Raphael's satanic brotherhood known as the Black Rose Society unknowingly. Since then, Dick became an arrogant, cold-blooded, narcissistic psychopath obsessed with making a name for himself in the weapons industrial complex. In order to fund his inventions, Dick started selling heroin, LSD, cocaine, and PCP into New York from Barney and Raphael's operations in the Vietnam poppy fields. Ashley Erin Katz forbade Dick from using their inheritance and war bonds to fund his inventions because Ashley Erin Katz thought the money would be wasted on failed inventions due to Dick's age at the time, and Ashley Erin Katz also wanted Dick to sell her drugs for her under the radar of the FBI and Treasury. Barney realized Richard's obsession with trying to control the weather with technology and decided to weaponize Richard's obsession with weather modification against the Viet Cong. Barney and Richard helped with the development of Operation Popeye. Operation Popeye was a top-secret U.S. military project during the Vietnam War 1967-1972 that used cloud seeding to extend the monsoon season over parts of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The goal was to increase rainfall to create muddy, impassable conditions that would slow down enemy truck traffic. They laced high clouds with silver iodide to create rain to slow down the traffic on the trail. Barney also hired Richard to be involved in a weather modification experiment known as Project Stormfury back in 1964. The project was a weather modification experiment attempt to weaken tropical cyclones by flying aircrafts directly into them and seeding them with silver iodide. The last experimental flight was flown in 1971, and was officially cancelled more than a decade after the last modification experiment. Both Barney and Richard left the project in 1975 to focus their ambitions on taking over the CIA. Although the project failed to achieve its goal of decreasing the destructiveness of hurricanes, it's noted that the storm life cycle can be modified to be more destructive if there's a dramatic change of temperature in terms of heat, and manipulating the seabed with soundwave impulses. Barney and Richard also found out that if there's enough vibrational disturbance on the seabed, it can trigger breaks within the tectonic plates with soundwave vibrations, or drilling through the seabed with lasers from a direct energy weapon, aka DEW, into the seabed. However, Hector was warned about Dick being spiritually and morally compromised by Barney and Stephanie in Martin's journal, and warned not to trust anything invention or weapons that's involved in AI, cellular regeneration with the use of human stem cells, nanotechnology, weather modification technology via cloud seeding, direct energy weapons with microwave technology and lasers, cybernetics, wormholes, RFID microchips, bioweapons, mass surveillance with the use of microcameras, developing space marines with the use of super soldiers and nanotechnology, human and animal cloning, and transhumanism. Dick had an obsession with transhumanism, and making clones of human beings by way of nuclear fusion. Luckily, Martin left a backup of weapons and reverse-engineered Lemurian warp-proof body armor in 3 bunkers left for the Kwons in Plantation, Sunrise, and Tamarack, Florida. Dick's service to Barney and Raphael's drug operations and Operation Popeye was rewarded by Barney giving Dick a job as a mission controller at NASA during the first launch of the Saturn V rocket on November 9, 1967. Barney realized Dick is the perfect protege to groom for his criminal operations due to Dick being not only a natural-born technopath, but also has an abundance of knowledge about magic and how to utilize magic and witchcraft when developing technology. The problem Barney had with Dick is Dick hates magic because he feels magic make things worse due to Barney wanting Dick to create portals to interact with interdimensional entities with ease of access. Dick wanted to instead reverse engineer technology from these entities Barney conjured. However, while doing a seance and building a portal to contact Zeta Greys in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica for Barney while Barney was stalking the Kwons while they worked for Bob Marley, Dick was fucked over by the Jamaican government as a sacrifice for Zeta Grey technology and gold for their Obia rituals. This led to Dick being off-world while he was forced into sexual slavery and probed by those Zeta Greys. This was also done to Dick because the Zeta Greys was strong-arming Barney for minerals his family controls in Ethiopia, and the Zetas took advantage of the Jamaican government's hatred for Rastafari to make it happen. When Barney found out what happened to Dick, Barney cursed the Jamaican government's cloaking from the Rasta community and the United States government for trying to compromise his relationship with his greatest protege. On September 1974, Barney organized a coup against Ethiopia, and placed Emperor Haile Selassie I on house arrest. On August 27, 1975, Richard had to be summoned back to Earth by giving away all the gold ores in Ethiopia, which led to Barney kidnapping and assassinating Emperor Haile Selassie I with the dirt, and buried his remains under a toilet at the Jubilee Palace in Addis Ababa. The use of a Russian coup on Ethiopia was to cover up Barney's ties to Emperor Haile Selassie's assassination. After being held in intergalactic sexual slavery by Zeta Greys for a year, the situation led to Dick having seething resentment for Barney, and which traumatized Dick from ever touching witchcraft ever again. Dick felt so betrayed by Barney even though it's not Barney's fault, he decided to start plotting a dead man switch in case Barney fucked him over again. To make it up to Dick, Barney promised Dick a position as a quartermaster for the CIA. Barney just needed time to sacrifice and assassinate Bob Marley to make it happen. Dick took advantage of Hector being his godfather as a dead man switch against Barney. Dick became closer with the Kwons in case he needed help against Barney. Dick knew Barney's obsession with the Kwons and Barney's pedophilia was Barney's biggest weakness. Hector's son took a liking to Dick and looked up to him like a big brother. Unlike Martin, Shen's godfather, and Jeremy Zudin, who had undying loyalty to the Kwon family, Dick was jealous of Shen because of his perfect family life, his innocence, Shen's Lemurian heritage, Shen's psychic abilities, and his strong hatred for children. Dick's hatred for children and Shen is so extreme, Dick's sense of humor mainly came from children in life-threatening situations or in fear. Dick loved playing life-threatening pranks on Shen while gaslighting him whenever Shen went to him for help. Secretly, Dick wanted to be just like Shen but knew it will never happen in his lifetime. An example of Dick's sense of humor is sending Shen on a seek and destroy operation in Studio 54 to retrieve blackmail on Barney's criminal operations in Studio 54. However, the joke to Dick is Dick secretly used Shen as a honey dick to entrap certain celebrities into having a gangbang with the 11-year-old Shen in a private room. While this happened, Shen was stuck in a room with 10 heavily armed PMCs, and 6 celebrities with abdominal raging erections while they all watched gay porn from a Super 16 projector. When Shen was about to get molested, Shen ended up killing everyone in the room and accidentally starting a fire. Although Shen didn't get sexually abused and retrieve the blackmail, Shen was severely traumatized for life by what he witnessed in Studio 54 and the fact Shen almost got gang raped by 6 Hollywood celebrities. Shen's trauma and him almost getting gang raped in Studio 54 is what made Dick laugh so hard he proudly shat himself in front of the traumatized Shen. Another example of Richard's sense of humor and jealousy of Shen is when Shen needed gear to save his parents. Richard gave Shen a 15-year-old outdated flak jacket as body armor and a rusted revolver, instead of the usual Lemurian body armor and the usual guns the agency provided Shen's parents with. When the two got to Guyana, Richard then ditched the 11-year-old Shen in the middle of the jungle of Jonestown 3 miles away from Jim Jones's base with no map, no ammo, no melee weapons, and no communication devices to stay in touch in case trouble arrived, abandoning Shen on purpose in Guyana after the airdrop. During Operation Grindhouse in Guyana, Hector Kwon and his wife Kaya was taken hostage by Jerry Jonas's son Hayden and Barney. The reason Hector's son Shen went to Richard for help was because while he was spying on Barney, Shen found photos of Dick being raped by Barney and Raphael on Martin's grave the night Martin was buried. In the aftermath of Operation Grindhouse, Dick discovered Barney and his mom lied to him his whole life, being disgusted and betrayed that he was working for the paperclip Nazis at NASA the whole time, finding out his mom is related to Judenrats that betrayed his own people for leadership positions in the Nazi Party, finding out his mother is an inbred from the Walker family, brainwashed against his father, raped by Barney and Raphael on Super 8 camera on his father's grave, and felt beyond betrayed for Barney protecting the Nazis of Operation Paperclip the whole time since the ending of World War II. Dick became so disillusioned with the government, his mom, his family, and the Jewish community. Dick denounced his Ashkenazi heritage and became a full-blown atheist. After the downfall of Barney Walker and Operation Grindhouse, Jeremy Zuden got revenge on Richard for giving Shen bullshit gear and leaving Shen to die in Guyana. Jeremy got Richard fired from the CIA and banned from working in all United States intelligence agencies. This situation left Dick out of a stable job for over a decade. For the rest of the 1980s and early 1990s, Dick was an arms dealer who specialized in creating designer weapons and technology for terrorists, for the right price. Hayden Jonas, the CIA's deputy director from between 1981-1991, decided to hire Dick to create weapons and technology for his own black operations during the final years of the Cold War. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, Dick decided to lay low to avoid getting caught up in Hayden's rogue Lemurian DNC Draken National Committee terrorist operations, since the Galactic Federation was onto Hayden's international sleeper cell network. After Jeremy Zuden's death in 1996, Richard got a job at CERN developing and building their Hadron Collider in Marin, Switzerland, approximately 1 hour and 29 minutes from the CIA's underwater base in Lake Geneva. Richard secretly wanted to weaponize the job to create a portal to the Zeta Gray's homeworld Reticulum 4 located 39 million light-years away from Earth in the Zeta Reticuli star system. The goal was to open portals to all of their motherships, and blow it all up as revenge for sexually enslaving him for a year back in 1974. In 2007, Dick found out the Zeta Gray's homeworld was destroyed over hundreds of thousands of years ago, and only had a couple of motherships left in our galaxy. When Richard was confronted by every scientist and superiors at CERN over his vendetta against the Zeta Grays, Richard had a panic attack, activated the portal of the Hadron Collider, activated multiple mobile 1 million megaton nukes he secretly built into the walls of the CERN lab, and shot them through the portal, destroying only 3 of the 8 motherships in our galaxy. All the CERN scientists, engineers, and security guards collectively had to beat the shit out of Dick just to calm him down. Fortunately, Richard was sent to a psych ward for his psychotic breakdown and had everyone at CERN trying to kill him for popping off a Zeta Gray war with NASA and ruining Zeta Gray trade relations with NASA. Hayden got word of Richard losing his mind at CERN and broke Dick out of the loony bin, murdered everyone at CERN, and the two replaced everyone at CERN with chiphead clones made with Dick's nuclear fusion technology. Hayden and Dick then released a bunch of top-secret government intel from NASA and CERN all over the internet and YouTube to initiate Hayden's hostile takeover of NASA, CERN, and the United States government. Hayden saved Dick because Hayden has been suffering from Parkinson's disease since 1974, and needed someone to finish adding militaristic applications to the Young family's muscle suit from Project Apollo. In 2007, Hayden was knocking on stage 4 Parkinson's. Another reason is for Operation Midnight Show, which is Hayden's plans to create a cosmic radiation manipulator to manipulate CMEs from solar flares with the use of Gwen towers and Wi-Fi. Dick agreed to help out, but Hayden made him do it under the condition he settled down and get a small-time job for the sake of his mental health. So Richard became a sergeant deputy of Fort Lauderdale Police Department. Richard was a lousy dirty cop that spent most of his time stealing weed from teenagers, and choke-slamming truant children, skateboarders, and pot-smoking teens, Undertaker style. In 2008, Dick got married to real estate agent Tiffany Gonzalez Rocha Rivera Sanchez. However, in 2010, Dick was arrested for shooting his wife and her black friend dead during a traffic stop. Richard knew Tiffany was cheating on him with a black man, but unfortunately Richard was so blinded with rage and his mother's inherited racism that the black man he shot was Tiffany's gay best friend. To make matters worse, Dick's being a reject of the Black Rose Society wife Tiffany is the grandniece of Rafael Diaz and was used as a honeypot to destabilize Hayden's operations and dominate Richard for shits and giggles. Because of this, Richard was sentenced to the electric chair, that's to be televised on local news stations as a form of public humiliation, to shut Dick up about raping him on his father's grave, and retribution for Tiffany. But Hayden also had smoke with the Diaz family since the 1960s because the Diaz family were trafficking Hayden to closeted homosexual politicians just to move up the ranks in the CIA, under his aunt's nose. Hayden's connections got Dick off with 20 years probation and 2 years of anger management. Richard was then demoted and transferred to Sunrise Police Department, patrolling the Sawgrass Mills Mall on weekends, usually getting his kicks off of harassing Shen's kids whenever they are trying to see an R-rated movie in theaters with their friends. On December 21, 2012, Shen went on a revenge mission to raid the base of Operation Midnight Show. Dick stalls Shen to buy time for Hayden, but Shen brutally defeated the two as time ran out. In the Loomis-Xanthus affair, Richard is the leader of Cult 25, a technocratic death cult bent on enslaving the teenage population into a white supremacist transhumanist totalitarian dictatorship with women and children under transhumanist mind control. Cult 25 goes around kidnapping the population of Broward County for experimentation in their organs. For every heart and brain Richard and Cult 25 collects from the population of teenagers and children is used to genetically duplicate their bodies, put their consciousness and injecting their replicated DNA the wombs of memory-wiped women over the age of 25 inside incubation tanks, drill RFID microchips inside their earholes of their genetic duplicates and repopulate the world with clones under Richard Loomis's complete technocratic mind control. Dick's natal chart is Sun in Leo, Moon in Virgo, and Libra rising. Dick doesn't have a main arm due to being an expert weapons inventor, so Dick will use anything in his arsenal at any time to kill anyone that crosses him, just to be petty and show off his inventions and authority. Dick's sidearm is a .45 caliber ACP Uzi submachine gun.
Prosecution find you guilty, judge gave you life. Yeah. And now the people wanna see you in a jailhouse or a casket for trouble in the picnic them. And there is no way around it. You can't claim, say you lie. You better look is that the cops them save your life. Cops them save your life. Style, a profile, messing with the little child, just like a pedophile. And even though child love conquers all, he won't heal when you ball, cause you're the worst type of criminal.